Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Hopefully the audio is working. Okay, so, hey Roxtonro. Hope you're having a good day. Blake Count Phil. Okay, today is Tuesday, the 13th of the year 2018. This is the nybbles.io daily programming stream. My name is Jeff. I write code. And sometimes I stream it here on Twitch. I'm working on the Bootstrap compiler for Basecode. And yesterday, after the stream, alright, yeah, hold on a sec then. I shuffled some devices around on the USB bus, and it could be that OS X has, yep, it did. Hold on. Okay, how's that? Is that improving my levels at all? And there we go. That's the magic one. Yes, now I sound normal. Oops. Here, let's do that. Okay. Yay. Yeah. Helps. Yes, it does. It helps. All right. Okie dokie. Hey, Soding. How's it going? Now I gotta double check. Nah, it looks okay. No BS. All right. So, yesterday, after the stream, I actually got the type declaration stuff working. And then I realized stupid things that I had done. So, which is, par for the course. So let's take a look at the AST evaluator and type declaration. So here's what I ended up with. Let's go through it. So the type decl ref pointer to a type reference is the thing we're going to end up with at the end, right? Didn't I say that? Never mind. I have this cold. It has just, I swear, ever since I have left the desert, I have slowly been in sickness. I think it's finally starting to get to me. So, if you remember, we changed the parser to parse the individual type declaration parts, like pointers and arrays and all that good stuff. And we have to walk down that chain because we want to walk it in reverse order. The easiest way to do that, to turn something in a tree inside out, is to use a stack. So I create a stack and I walk down that chain. Then we're going to walk what's on the stack. So we've taken this tree thing and we've flipped it. So now the very first node that I would expect to get is a symbol node. So we're going to do what we typically do with these. We're going to make a qualified symbol out of it. We're going to try to look the type up. If we don't find the type, since this is the name, we're going to make the unknown type placeholder for it for later resolution. Otherwise, we're going to make just the reference to the type that we get back. When I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that those are identical. There we go. Even simpler. Look at that. So we try to find the type. If we can't find it, it's unknown. Either way, we have to make a reference. There you go. Okay, spreads, stupid. I'm an idiot. That's coming out. Pointer declaration, yeah, pretty typical. We try to find the pointer type. We can't find it. We make it. We make a reference to it. Okay, arrays. Arrays are kind of fun, a little bit different. So the way array subscripts work is one, there's a rule that says if you have a dynamic array, you can only have one subscript. Because how do you subscript? Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So the very first thing we look for is whether or not there is a size expression inside of the array subscript declaration, right? So this is dynamic. Oops. This is a constant integer literal size. So this is an array of 2 entries. This is, f times 6 plus 4. This is some expression, right? It has to end up being a constant expression, but it's an expression nonetheless. So if this is null, that means there's nothing inside the brackets, okay? And that means it's a dynamic. If it isn't dynamic, then we have to take the node that we currently have, the one that got us into this case statement, and resolve it, and put that into the subscripts array. Then what we do is we have a sub loop here that then starts to try to walk the remainder of the stack, okay? So we check the next node, right? Because we've already popped the one we're working on off the stack. And here, we're gonna check, okay, is the next one if it's not a subscript declaration, we're gonna bail. If it is, but the one that got us into this case is dynamic, that's an error, right? Because again, you can't have a dynamic with a dynamic or a dynamic with a size. That doesn't make any sense. So this would throw an error and the whole pile comes crashing down at that point. Otherwise, the first subscript was not dynamic, it was sized in some way. And so we're gonna take this node that we just got, we're gonna evaluate it, put it on the subscripts list, we're gonna pop. We're just gonna keep doing that until we don't have any more subscript nodes. So then we're gonna come down here. Now we know what the base type is. We know the base type is whatever the type decl ref is when we got here, right? Because remember, we're parsing it left to right, then we're flipping the tree and we're consuming it right to left to build up the actual type. So this would be either a pointer or a type name or a named type of some kind. And we have our subscripts, we have our scope. If a particular array with that configuration doesn't yet exist, we make one. And then I realized, see, this is why I missed reviewing the code yesterday. So I went and made big messes. Yeah, that should always be outside of the if. Okay, and then otherwise, we got some node that we don't understand and we weren't expecting, so that's an error. Spreads, so I feel really silly on this. I just confuse myself, that's what happens. So thankfully, I kept this. Yeah, the latest build of the EAP for Sea Lion, they like started using Clang for even more stuff, and it does now have these pauses, which are kind of annoying. So as soon as I finish my rename of shame here, I will explain where my thinking went off the deep end. Thankfully, it's not too bad to fix it. I didn't get too far off the rails. Okay, I never renamed it. All right, so if we load up module here, I don't know why I thought I wanted to do it this way. It's stupid. Really. This morning I'm thinking to myself, why did I ever think this was right? For some reason, yeah, I don't even know how to explain why I thought this was right. But really, this is what I meant, you know. For some reason, I had it on the type all this time, and when I went through my mental list of, okay, where did I leave off yesterday? What am I gonna do today? And oh yeah, I had questions about spread again, and I'm like, okay, why did I put it on the type? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense, because it really has nothing to do with the type, right? This is telling the compiler that there are just many of these, right? And each one is of type any. Anyway, I totally had a brain fart on that one. So, thankfully, corrective action has been taken. Oh, I do have to change because I goofed this. All right, so let's make spread operator. I gotta rename it too. Forgot about that. And see, I made a note to myself, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Don't do it. Don't code sick. Weird shit happens. Excuse me. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Go do the work. Excuse me. Not a type. Hey, yeah, that's annoying. Oh, come on. Okay. Good news is you can always clean up. Oops. Now, so I clean that up, and let's go back to AST evaluator. Okay. So there's another issue, and that is we have a directive, a type directive, that takes a parameter or expression after it that is expected to be a valid type declaration. So to accommodate that syntactical scenario, what I'm going to do after I get this clean compile here is I'm going to go into the parser and I'm going to extract the guts of that infix parser we have, make a helper function, and then for that type directive, we'll put a call in special case for that. And that should fix that issue. Then in the test code that I have, the pointers.bc should compile and run at that point. Then we just need to go through and tidy up and just make sure that there aren't any other areas that need, oh, yeah, we got to get the unknown type stuff rewired in. But actually that should end up being a lot easier than what it was, because really all we're doing again is that symbol find part. We don't need to do any of the other stuff because we've basically said like pointers, arrays, those are not types that are ever missing. Oh yeah, oops, forgot it's not type anymore. In fact, let's see. Person whose name is yellow. I can't read it. Sorry. It says, why don't you compile with more than one processor? I do. If you look here, see where it says J4? So this is telling Make to use as many as 4 processors, 4 cores on this machine. However, I am running OBS on this laptop, and OBS is a bloated warthog. And as you can see, my average CPU utilization is 33%. So this is when I'm compiling. This is when OBS is just idling, right? OBS is expensive, CPU-wise. So Roxtandro says, do you have any plans on releasing an alpha build? I know you're busy refactoring right now. I'm patient. Yeah, I was going to say all the source code's on GitHub, and it's been a while since I've compiled it under Linux BSD, but it should compile. If it doesn't, let me know, and I'll tidy up whatever is out of line. On Windows, it will compile with MinGW. So the last time I compiled on Windows, what I did was I installed the MinGW stuff. I believe I installed LLVM, and I installed CLion, and I was able to compile it straight out of CLion on Windows, and it worked. I'm not saying I didn't, since then, that's been probably a couple months at this point. There have been a couple things that have changed. So yeah, if you're on OS 10, you should just be able to pull down the code and run CMake and should be good to go. If not, like I say, create an issue on GitHub and I'll tidy it up. I mean, a word of warning, the compiler is not quite yet usable. We're getting close. I would say, my end of year target might be pretty good. Oh, come on, CLion. You can do it. I have used Qt Creator in the past. It has been probably 4 or 5 months since I last used it. The last time I used it, they did not really have CMake integration. So yeah, I'll have to take a look. One moment. Yeah, the last time I used Qt Creator, it didn't do that. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I'll definitely pull down the latest version and take a look. Yeah, what would really be nice if Qt Creator actually like seamlessly supports CMake now for all of their pre-processing stuff. Yeah, because that's always the issue I've had with Qt. I mean, I love Qt, and I'm like Qt UIs are the way to go if you have to build a desktop UI. But I always just end up using QMake because it integrates with their tool and it like handles all their pre-processing stuff seamlessly. Every time I tried to do it with CMake in the past, it just always ended up being painful. Awesome, perfect. Yeah, so if it does all the pre-processing stuff seamlessly now, that's sweet. Yeah. Yeah, that's great because that was all. I mean, and, you know, QMake is fine, but it just kind of always felt like, yeah, this thing's old. Kind of like me. Yeah, you know, CMake is funny. In many ways, it sucks, but once you get used to its quirkiness, it does its job pretty well. And I find myself missing it when I'm not using it. And I thought to myself the other day, I'm like, wow, this thing is not, where's CMake? I want CMake. I thought, oh, I never thought I'd say that. Obligatory login because OS 10 is now anal about everything. Yeah, okay. So this is a bug I already know about. We're going to fix that. Okay, so I got all of my typos and renames and stuff out of the way. So next step is let's go to the parser and we want to go to type declaration fix, and so it's not huge. Okay, so in the cases where we're calling it from the infix parser, we want to put the type node on the left or the right hand side of that node and return that. Otherwise, we're doing it in a non-infix scenario. So we just want to return the node we created. So then if I go back to type declaration, then here, I can just call create like so. And then, okay, yep, I left the code commented, so this can be just create type declaration. Like so. And at least for that one case, which is what's happening right here, that should be fixed. So let's test that. I think we're going to have to fix the type resolver, which is cool. We got to do that anyway. And like I say, it should be pretty, no, actually, it worked. Okay. So good. Now, there's other problems we're going to have to fix, of course, but forward progress is being made. Yay. Okay, so head to head, think. What do I want to do? Oh, yeah, let's go fix session. Resolve. Okay, so we're going to get the unknown type, and we don't need any of this other garbage. So evaluator. It's essentially that. Yes. So we actually don't need this. Because we have unknown type, symbol, so if it's not null, oh yeah, this is super easy. Huzzah. Except I can't do it that way. parent scope. There you go. So we have an unknown type. This is always going to be a named type. That unknown type already has the symbol on it that has the qualified symbol. So if it was fully namespaced, whatever, that's being taken care of here. The parent scope is the parent scope of the variable that we're trying to resolve the type for. And if it's not null, that means we got it. We're going to make a type reference to it. We're going to update that variable's type reference to the type reference we're making here for the type we just resolved. Then we're going to remove from the element map. This frees up that unknown type thing and anything related to it. Otherwise, we fall down here and then we check, hey, did we actually find a type? And if not, then that's an error and bad things ensue. So let's try that. Zizo Kareem says, hi, have you worked before with Docker? I have. Yay. Okay. Really quickly, I had made a note to myself that there's an ordering bug here. Define the type alias before item is defined cause an error. Okay, so yeah, so we should be able to do that, right? Even though item is not defined yet, that should be resolved. So let's test that. Yes. Wunderbar. All right. So, rocking and rolling here this morning. Okay. Now, gotta go back to the parser. And I gotta tidy up temporarily some messes that I made. And then I think this refactoring, I'll go through it one more time on the translator side, on the AST side, but I think it's okay. I think it's right. So my question is, how do you work with a MongoDB image and a Kubernetes cluster locally? Very carefully. More seriously, dude, I'd have to look that shit up. I mean, I don't memorize any of that stuff. So I know that I usually raise the ire of folks when I start bashing on Docker and Kubernetes. And didn't Kubernetes just have like 3 days of outage? Anyway, look, this is kind of like microservices in a sense. You have to ask yourself, why do you need the container? What is it doing for you, right? I get it. It's very trendy, Jesus. It's very trendy right now. It's very hip. All the, fangers are doing it as they suck the blood. But you have, do you really need the extra complexity? That is the nugget that I would put out there as it relates to things like Docker and Kubernetes. If you truly do require the complexity, great. Then, you know, you're one of the very rare, I think, projects that truly. Okay, can you hear me now? It's weird because like my microphone is not cutting out. I can't tell if it's... Yeah, it does, like, OBS seems to lose track of the device, right? Like it just, it's, OS 10 still is registering the mic. I never lose my own voice in my head here. I mean, it's always there, but OBS seems to drop the config for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I'll have to keep an eye on it. Just let me know if it cuts out again. That's really annoying. So anyway, you probably didn't hear my rant. I mean, as far as the pausing is concerned, you know, I am on a shitty internet connection here. I'm streaming. I'm trying to stream at 2 megabits per second. I'm not quite making it here. Right now I'm at 1.5. Yeah, unfortunately I'm not at home. I'm not on my fiber. And I'm noticing that there's other little glitchy things that are happening with Twitch this morning. I keep getting weird notifications about hosting and like, but they're not real hosts. I don't know what it's doing. So I don't know if it's part on my end. Oh, the other thing too is I have that low latency setting still, I think. And like when this connection's decent, I don't think it's much of an issue, but I think if this connection kind of dips, then it becomes a problem. But yeah, let me know if it gets real bad. I'll turn off the low latency feature if that's even something I can still turn on or off. Okay. What was I gonna do? I don't even remember now. Yeah. So let's temporarily put back declaration. We're gonna revisit these again, but I just wanted to rerun the oh, seriously? That sucks. Like, you know, what is Apple really? I understand, sort of, but at this point, they gotta know that's a use case, right? Yeah, I gotta come back to that one. Okay, so I think I put all those back in. I chose slightly crappier scale filtering in OBS to see it. I mean, that definitely did lower the baseline CPU a bit. However, I don't know if the trade-off is worth it. So I think the reason we're getting pauses and stuttering is because the CPUs, all the cores are getting pegged, unfortunately. I missed my trash can. Okay, so that one still runs. So here is what I would like to do. Oh, did it? Good. Well, that could be because I lowered the CPU load. So there you go. Yeah, let me know if it goes out of skew. But yeah, so void comp fill talks about how just had some scripts that did deploys. And yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I know right now, you know, for resume-driven development, everybody wants to have Docker and Kubernetes and JavaScript, JavaScript, JavaScript on their resume. But that stuff, look, Docker is cool, it's neat, but you know, keep in mind that you realize this probably isn't fair, but like at least 80% of Docker is Linux or BSD, right? It's just jails. It's not. Yeah, they have an imaging thing and they set it up and they tear it down, but like it's stuff that's already in the operating system. I'm not saying that you wouldn't have to do work to get that set up, and Docker does do that, but again, the question is like, do you need it, right? Do you need the complexity? I think Adam13531 just spent 3 weeks setting up AWS to do something now much more complex. I do agree that I'm sort of out of touch with how things are done today, but I can't help think is it really worth it? I mean, again, like if you just have to evaluate every project on its own merits, right? And everything's trade-offs. If you truly have to scale at and have a very flexible topology and configuration, yeah, I mean, then maybe Dockerizing things makes sense. But then the reason that most people flock to Docker and Kubernetes right now is because of microservices. And I just had this conversation the other day, and like, again, first, most folks are not doing microservices properly anyway, because they end up with a shared database or shared something. I mean, if you have a mainframe or an AS400, and part of your architecture is we have microservices in the mainframe, you might just stop right there. You don't have microservices, right? I'm sorry. If you have this one thing in your environment that everything must eventually talk to, then it's not microservices. And I always find it interesting because, to me, the thing about microservices, if you have ever really tried to use them, the challenge is not, right? And this is what beguiles and traps developers. As EEV blog Dave says, young players. And that is, it's easy and it's very compelling to build your first microservice, right? Yes, you can build that one service, or you maybe even build 2 or 3 that stand on their own, nice and pretty, and maybe there's no shared anything like there's supposed to be. But then you get to a point pretty quickly where you need to orchestrate things between all these microservices, and that's where everybody gets in trouble. So, yeah. Buyer beware. That's all I got to say. Okay. So, I have a little shell script here. It's super advanced. It runs all these. And then I usually just pipe the output to a file and then prep for error. Okay, so there's a couple things that are not parsing quite right. Composite operators, prefix parser for token. Right, okay, so I did take out the prefix parser for the type stuff because I wasn't sure why I had it. I couldn't remember the cases. So let's take this first one, composite operators. This one could be an easy fix. I can just put the prefix parser back in. Prefix parser for colon not found in procedure. Yeah, okay. Okay. So what I had here previously was I was allowing a comma separated list of return types, but the way I ended up changing that with tuple, there really is only one valid type declaration for a return now. I'm gonna just make a note. Because I'm kind of manually parsing it here. I'm just slurping up the colon and then doing the create type declaration node, which will work, I think, but it might make more sense to put the prefix parser back in. I don't know. I got to think about that. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Okay, this one always failed at that point. So let's go back to our test cases. Ooh, lambda blew up. That's not good. I mean, it should air out, but it shouldn't blow up. Excuse me. Okay. What is this? Oh. Huh? Interesting, it didn't parse something. Oh, yeah, okay, it's not parsing this. It doesn't know how to do that yet. Fair enough. Yeah, okay. I think when I was talking to myself, I think I put that in there. Okay, no seg faults. What do we got? Yeah, so composite operators always, like I had goofy types that don't exist up there in that example. Fibonacci, unable to infer type. Okay, so that's not good because Fibonacci was compiling. Line 56. All right, so Fibonacci, and there's, yeah, so I need to look at that one. And then 4 maps, this, yeah, this was never properly compiling. But let's take a look at Fibonacci. So composite operators, I'm okay with that one. We'll fix that soon. Look, I almost have unit tests. Okay. Unable to infer type value. Why? I don't understand. Oh, no, maybe I do. Maybe I do. Yeah, that would be it right there. All right, so I'm just assigning the type now to the right-hand side. There are no children. My tummy's unhappy. Oh, come on. Yep, that would be why it can't infer the type, because it doesn't have one. Oops. Easy fixes. I like easy fixes. Yeah, that should be null now by default. Well, I guess it depends. So Journey started as how far until, Basecode runs its first app. I guess it depends on what you mean by app, because it does run small programs, but they're not very useful right now. They're just sufficient for testing purposes. Honestly, I think the Bootstrap compiler should be at a point here soon, right around probably the end of the year, give or take, where it'll be sufficiently complete that I can actually start writing real code with it. So that's my, now keep in mind my roadmap here is that the Bootstrap compiler, which is what I'm working on now, I'm going to use that to then rewrite the compiler in Basecode itself because I want it to be self-hosted. So I'm going to be working on the compiler for quite some time, but I do think I'll actually be at the point where I can start writing, rewriting the compiler in Basecode here soon. All right, let's rerun all of our test cases. What do we got? Okay, good. So composite operators, know that issue. For maps, I think that one's a parsing thing, but we'll double check. And actually, you know, composite operators, what it's whinging about is UTF-16 string and UTF-32 string. So UTF-16 string, UTF-32 string. I mean, I can just, I'm not doing anything with them. So we can probably get that one to pass for now. And again. Jeez, I guess I'm hungry. What do we got? Oh, boy. That's not good. of it. I wonder. This is one of those files that I was like using to riff, and I never really, like, I tidied it up a little bit a while back. Oh, of course it's already doing that. Duh. That's not gonna help. Come on, see it. Come back to me. All right. I mean, I'm totally happy if I can just get this case to generate a real error, right, from the compiler. I mean, that's fine, because I'm not expecting this one to actually work right now, but the fact that it's blowing up bothers me. How did your contact messaging system turn out? Refresh my memory. I'm drawing a blank on that one. No, I think you might be thinking about somebody else. You may be thinking of when I was working on that SAS thing, because at the time when I was streaming that, most of what I did stream was kind of back-end messaging infrastructure and stuff. That's possible. I have, unfortunately, I'm still fighting legal battles there. Yeah, that's been on hold for a while. I had to touch a header file. Oh, why? Hey, Mr. Anderson. Yay. Good. Okay. That makes sense because, yeah, that doesn't work. But at least now it's generating a compiler error like it should. Okay, good. Yay. My OCD got the better of me on that one. Okay, so composite operators is returning that type mismatch error, which is exactly what it should be doing. Let's take a look at for maps. I'm pretty sure this is just a parsing thing. Meaning like I haven't gotten to the part yet that will allow this to work, but let's just double check. What do we got here? Unable to infer type of iterate. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and then the rest of this is the compiler like bombing because, so this is another thing I made a note of for myself. Like right now, to some extent, the plumbing, it just keeps running, but really this is the error. Everything after this is kind of noise. I mean, yes, technically these are all failures, but they don't really help you all that much. This is actually what causes the cascade, is that the iterator is untyped. This point doesn't know what it is. So yeah, okay. That one is, that's fine. Haven't gotten to that yet. So, all right, good. So as far as I'm concerned right now, that's passing for everything. And actually, let's just do one other thing here. Let's go to while, there we go. This is the one I wanted. Yeah, okay, looks all right. Okay, so let's review this and talk about next steps. Exciting, exciting. Okay, so for the bajillionth time, I have changed how I'm handling the spread thing. Yesterday, I mistakenly thought I would make it a type. That was stupid. I put it back as an operator. So I renamed that. That changed the CMake list file. So then we renamed spread type to spread operator, refactored it back. It's just a standard element now. It takes in an expression element, very simple. And I kept the infer type. That's important. I just passed through whatever expression is there. And then, let's see. What type do you get if you iterate over a map? Obviously some kind of KV pair, but I mean like a struct, tuple. I don't know yet. Haven't gotten to the iterators. It'll be some composite type, right? Most likely for arrays and for maps, I will have an array iterator type and I will have a map iterator type. And each one, like on the array, it'll have probably like kind, index, and value, right? And then for the map, it'll be, you know, kind, key, value, and maybe, I don't know, maybe something else. Depends on how I actually end up implementing it. And that kind thing, that's first, medial, last. Because one of the things I find very annoying about writing loops in programming languages is that very often you want to know, is this the first thing? Is this the last thing? Is this something in between? So Yeah, we'll be getting into the iterator stuff soonish. All right, so let's talk about in the AST, I renamed spread type to spread operator, changed the name mapping, changed the builder function for that. For proc type nodes, so a procedure type or a procedure expression has proc type nodes on the left and it has parameters on the right. But we're not doing a list of return types anymore because we have the tuple structure now. And so you're always just specifying one type or no types on the end. So that should default to null here at this point. And down here, this just got moved and renamed. Array type, this was a rename. We have to revisit the name thing here though, because it's not generating the correct names and we're not using the spread operator like this anymore, but that's okay. That should be easy to clean up. In the AST evaluator, I had commented out the spread operator handler. I put it back in because I doubted my own logic yesterday. So I put this back in and uncommented this, fixed it up, fixed up the builder. In the type declaration, or I'm sorry, this is procedure expression, right? So return types, it's not a list anymore. It's just one node. If you want a complex, like if you want a tuple, you can just use a tuple expression for the type that gets returned. And if you name those fields, then you can access you'll be able to access those named fields within the procedure body, right, for named return values and all that. So there's always just one here. So I had to refactor that. And then in type declaration, one of the first things I did this morning on stream was walk through this, kind of re-explaining it. And I noticed that, I could clean up some of these. There were some subtle bugs and goofiness in here. So I tidied that up and we also got rid of the spread type, right? That should never have been in there. And that was it for the AST evaluator. Code DOM formatter, again, I changed the name of spread operator, spread type spread operator, so I fixed that. Compiler types, I added an is valid so I have this variable handle T that wraps, it's a very primitive, you can think of it as like a smart pointer. It's very primitive though. So I just added an is valid in here. So if the underlying instance is null, then it's not valid. And we use that inside of the session when we're getting compiler variables. So this particular Basecode test file, again, like I said, this was kind of one of those ones I was riffing a lot on how I thought operator overloading and stuff was going to work, which I still am planning on going down this road, but I never, this file never really compiled, and I honestly never really intended for it to. But as I got into this phase where I'm fixing the parser, I thought, okay, I have all these test files. Let's try to get them as close to compiling as we possibly could. So this compiles up to the point that there's no, right now the compiler doesn't understand how to do this. Eventually we'll fix this, where you can have an assignment overload where it will know how to handle a literal assignment, but haven't gotten there yet. So, but this compiles now without blowing up, and it issues a type mismatch error, which is fine. That's exactly what it should be doing right now. And I went ahead and defined, UTF-16 and UTF-32, even though these are not correct. And I guess, what the heck, we could get them closer, right? Pointer to 16-bit, pointer to 30-bit, right? Make sure that didn't break anything. Nope, looks okay. All right. All right, so now UTF-16 and UTF-32 at least sort of kind of pretend like they're close to what they should maybe look like. And element builder, I fixed the builder function for spread operator. Pretty standard. Element types, again, renaming of spread operator. Renaming of the element type T and the name map. Those changes tend to go everywhere. Lambda, this particular syntax, this is the next thing I'm going to do. But the compiler doesn't yet know how to handle this, so it doesn't return anything valid here. So temporarily, I've removed that syntax. We're going to put it back in after I make the next refactoring. But yeah, just to get it to where it's not blowing up right now. And then in our module, our support module, the spread now goes on the variable, right, which is what it's really referencing. Now, it's parsing, it's translating it, but when we get in, we're gonna have to get into procedures after we finish all this parser stuff on the code gen side, and there's more work to be done in terms of like interpreting that during the compilation. Right now it's very janky, but again, we're focusing on the parser and translation for the most part. So, so to get everything kind of put back together, now that I've got this type declaration parsing refactored, I needed to hoist that parsing code into a helper function. So I created a create type declaration node. Does exactly the same thing as what we had inside of the actual infix parser, but it's just now can be called from other parts of the parsing infrastructure. So that allowed me to put everything back together, essentially the way that it was. Now, I have the next refactoring we're doing in the parsing is we're gonna revisit a lot of these because they're gonna be taken care of with that type tagged identifier stuff. But I just wanted to rerun the test suite such that it is to kind of verify that the type stuff was at least, we were getting the same code, it was running the same way, and it looks like that's the case. And then I had to refactor the return type on the procedure expression. This is okay. I mean, this is accurate, it will work. I'm gonna think about it, like, do I want to keep it that way or do it a different way? I'm not sure. But for now, it's all right. And yeah, so then I took this code, put it into a helper function, and that allowed specifically the type directive, right? We needed to be able to parse out just a type declaration without the colon, right? Because again, the colon is the trigger. An infix colon is the trigger for type declarations. So I had to have a way of manually saying, okay, what follows should be a type declaration. In our pointers test file, I was able, the changes that I made fixed the ordering issue with a resolution. So I was able to move these type aliases up where they were originally, got rid of the comment. And here's a bunch of just testing the new type parsing, right? And this all works exactly the way that it should. So that's super awesome. Then in session, this is the variable helper function on session that given an element and a reference to a variable handle t, this will try to give you a valid assembly variable, compiler variable that you can work with when you're doing code gen. Because of the fact that the parser does not completely understand, like I was trying to assign a string literal to a type that that just doesn't work yet. This was failing, which is fine, I would expect that, but I wasn't handling it. So here I just refactored this to get a reference to the var, check if it's valid. If not, we bail. If it is, we read it and everything proceeds as normal. Then down here, this is in resolve unknown types. So we, again, with this whole type declaration refactoring, things have been vastly simplified. And all we have to do here now is try to find the symbol that's associated to the unknown type. If we can't find it, that's an error. If we do find it, we swap references, we free out the unknown stuff, and we're done. And that works. So that's it. That's what we got. Super happy with that. Mr. Anderson says the alloc 8 in make string, is that 8 bytes or 8 elements? It's 8 bytes. Alloc is as low level as you can imagine, so you have to know what you're doing. For programming, when you have something that's not done, would it not be helpful to have a message or default self-identifying result so you do not have errors? If you were doing that already, I misunderstood something. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Sometimes I do have, if something's partially finished or whatever, I have it do something that's approximate to what it would be. But sometimes not, right? It just depends on what it is. Okay, so let's just run this one more time. Right. Yay, that one was big, but good. Needed. All right. So for n elements, you would have something like C's n times size of yes, something similar. Okay, so really quickly, before I have to run, the next steps. So the next steps are, if we go to the for range file, I would like to be able to tag this identifier with type parameters. And so the next thing is going to be to enhance the lexer to be able to detect that an identifier has type parameters associated to it in the lexical stream, and we're going to have a different kind of token that allows the parser then to go down a different path. So then the parser will be able to consume the type parameters for the identifier, and those will live on the symbol, and then other parts of the system will refactor those to consume those from that change in structure. What that also means, though, is things like cast and transmute and a bunch of other stuff, right? Like this, there's no difference here really. So this would work in the same way. So we're gonna have to revisit. Right now you could say this is hard-coded. And the difference between this and like range is range, I don't have a distinct token for it. And actually I would like to not have distinct tokens for things like cast and range and transmute and all that. I would like those to be handled more generically. But right now, the way I'm doing some of this with like cast and transmute is I do have a special token for them, and that's how I'm able to go into a special parsing case and handle these type parameters. So we're going to genericize that for everything, and then that's huge, right? That's going to then open the door to finalize, like the example I have for my Lambda, right, is I have a prototype for procedure that has a left-hand side and a right-hand side, which takes a pointer to a T of some kind and returns a bool. So then here, when I define my QSort procedure, that T I want to pass straight through, right? I want to be able to do that. Well, with this change, we're going to be able to do that. So, yeah, so that's next. And then once we get that refactoring done, and that's going to be another big one, probably not as big as the type declaration stuff, but it'll be sizable. And then we can do our Lambda syntax, and then the only thing left after that will be switch. I mean, I'm considering the for loop stuff parsed, even though like it's erroring but that's a type thing, right? That has nothing to do with, like if I did temp it, I mean, we could make this compile probably, right? In a fashion, so actually let's verify that I'm already running that one, okay? I mean, I'm not that worried about that because what's really, if that's the case, what's missing is just the type. Maybe. Unable to infer type. Oh, maybe I'm not parsing this that way. Okay, so yeah, maybe we do have to. Because that should be a way around it temporarily. So, yeah, we'll have to figure that out, the Lambda stuff, and then switch. And then that's it for parsing. And And I'll do another quick pass over everything just to make sure. I don't think anything major is missing, but I don't think so. I am not parsing scientific notation for numbers. I realized that the other day. So, but here's the thing. That's like isolated in one function. So I could fix that fairly easily, I think. Okay, so I plan to be online tomorrow, same time as usual, and we'll pick up wherever I leave off today. I'm getting excited because after we do the parsing stuff, I think it's going to be procedures, right? And it's going to be procedures on the compiler side, the code gen side, and it's going to be like kind of like what I've been doing with the parsing, part 1, part 2, part 3. It's going to be procedures part 1 through part whatever to kind of get those really wrapped up. And I think related with that, like a lot of the scoping stuff and all that, I'm gonna tackle all that at that time. Close to self-hosting, it depends on your definition of close, right? Like I will, as I said earlier in the stream, I believe by the end of this year, I will have the Bootstrap compiler ready. It will be sufficiently advanced enough that I can start rewriting the compiler in Basecode itself. Now, again, depends on your definition of self-hosting. Will Basecode be able to compile itself? Not quite yet, right? I mean, that's realistically, we're sometime into 2019, you know, no idea, right? May, April, no idea. So, yeah, I'd like to get it done sooner rather than later because I would really like to start using it. But yeah, I just keep telling myself not to rush this part and try to get it right. All right, thanks everybody for dropping by. I appreciate it. And like I said, I will be back online my usual time. Well, my usual, not scheduled, but slightly earlier time. Sorry. And maybe I can get back to my actually advertised schedule here soon, and maybe even make it a little bit longer. We'll see. So anyhow, have a good one, and I'll see everybody tomorrow.